Namaste to all. I am Dr. Jagdish Bala, Associate Professor and Principal, Government First Grade College for Women, Balmata, Mangalore. In this session, we will discuss about ratio analysis. This is a chapter which is prescribed by the Mangalore University to the 6th semester BCom Financial Accounting 6. The syllabus gives a list of 12 ratios wherein students are required to solve problems by applying these ratios. We will discuss about these ratios. The basic financial statements, that is the profit and loss account and balance sheet of any firm, contains a lot of accounting and financial information or data. But these figures and amounts do not convey much by themselves. These figures are to be analyzed and interpreted intelligently to get a clear picture of the financial strength or sometimes the weakness of the firm. Analysis and interpretation are very much required to make these financial statements more useful, communicative, and meaningful. The financial statements analysis can be done using different techniques like comparative statements, common size statements, trend analysis, cash flow analysis, sometimes a fund flow analysis, and ratio analysis. Some of these techniques the students have already learnt in some other subjects like costing or financial management. Among all these different techniques, ratio analysis is the most widely used technique. Now we will know the meaning of ratio analysis. A ratio is a statistical yardstick to measure the relationship between two variables or figures. In other words, ratio defines the relationship between two or more things, two or more amounts, two or more figures. A ratio reflects quantitative relationship, that is the amount, the relationship between two amounts, between two accounting figures, and help to make qualitative judgment about the firm's financial performance and position, mainly to the management. It is a decision making, used as a decision making tool. Now the importance of ratios. It helps to measure the general efficiency. It helps to measure the financial solvency of the firm. It helps in forecasting as well as planning. It facilitates decision making, not only to the management, even to other stakeholders. Helps in internal comparison between different activities, different departments. Helps in inter-firm comparison. Firm which is doing the same type of business can be compared with this firm, like that. It's an effective tool to understand the accounting figures. Ratio analysis acts as a good communication to all stakeholders. Now the limitations of ratios. sometimes the difference in accounting practices makes the use of ratios. Sometimes there is different accounting practices are followed by different firms. Then comparison between these two firms may not be a practical one. It is possible that the data given itself are not correct. Then the ratios comparison becomes useless. Lack of common standards makes the comparison difficult. Price level changes have a great impact on ratios. Therefore, over the period, different years, comparison sometimes it is difficult. Sometimes for decision making, insufficient information is also a limitation. It is said ratios is an arithmetical window dressing, making giving a good picture about the company. And in all the cases, we cannot take a decision merely on the basis of ratios. Sometimes some other tools or techniques are also necessary. So ratio alone has a limited usage. Next, classification of ratios. Keeping in view the purpose, the ratios can be classified in different ways. There are many classifications. The major classifications are solvency ratios, profitability ratios, turnover ratios, market test ratios, leverage ratios. The current ratio, the debt equity ratio, the solvency ratio, the liquidity ratio, all comes under solvency ratios. The profitability ratios, gross profit ratio, net profit ratio, like that. Turnover ratios, stock turnover, debtors turnover, creditors turnover, like that. Market ratios, earnings per share, dividend yield. Then leverage ratios, operating leverage, financial leverage, etc. etc. Next, accounting ratios can be expressed as a pure ratio or as a rate or as a percentage. Let us understand this with an example. Say for example the current ratio, where the formula is the current assets divided by current liabilities. If the current assets are 5 lakhs divided by current liabilities, say for example if it is 2 lakhs, now the ratio can be 2:5 If it is expressed like that, it is pure ratio. Next one is current assets are 2.5 times of the current liabilities. If it is the answer, it is expressed in rate. If for the formula, if you multiply by 100, we get the percentage. Then the current assets are 250% of the current liabilities. Now the students, from the examination point of view, can express the ratio in any one method. The valuer will give importance to the formula which is applied, the figures which are used. It can be expressed either as a pure ratio or as a rate or as a percentage. No doubt, normally the current ratios, the liquidity ratio, the debt equity ratio, normally they are expressed as pure ratios. And the turnover ratios are normally expressed in terms of rate. And normally again the profitability ratios, that is the gross profit ratio, net profit ratio, they are expressed as percentage. But once again, there is no hard and fast rule in the examination. Calculation of ratios. We will concentrate on 12 ratios which are given in the syllabus of the Mangalore University. The first one is current ratio. It is the ratio of current assets to current liabilities. Generally, it is considered 2:1 is a favorable ratio. How it is calculated? Current assets divided by current liabilities. Here, current assets means the balance sheet items: cash, bank balance, short-term investments, bills receivable, debtors, stock, prepaid expenses, etc. Current liabilities include trade creditors, bank overdraft, bills payable, provision for tax, proposed dividends, unclaimed dividends, outstanding expenses, etc. Now the next one is liquid ratio. It is also called as acid test ratio or quick ratio. It is a comparison between liquid assets and liquid liabilities. What is a liquid asset? Current assets excluding stock and prepaid expenses is a liquid asset. Then what is a liquid liability? Current liabilities excluding bank overdraft. Next, stock turnover ratio. This ratio indicates the speed at which the inventories can be converted into sales. Greater the turnover means management is very efficient, and if the lower turnover means more accumulation of a stock. Stock turnover ratio is calculated cost of goods sold divided by average stock held during the period. Then once again, what is cost of goods? Opening stock plus purchases plus direct expenses minus closing stock. All these are available in the trading account. Or it can be also calculated like this: sales minus gross profit is equal to cost of goods sold. Now what is average stock? Opening stock plus closing stock divided by 2. Sometimes in the exam problems, only one stock will be given. Then whatever the information given, that itself is considered as average stock. The next one is gross profit ratio. Gross profit divided by net sales into 100. Net sales means, if at all, sales minus sales returns. Higher the gross profit ratio means the selling price or increased cost of production. There is a reduction in that. Now next one is the net profit ratio. This is very useful to the owners and also to the prospective investors. It indicates the overall profitability of the concern. Net profit here means net profit after deducting tax. Once again, net sales means sales minus returns. So normally it is expressed in terms of percentage. Next, debt equity ratio. This is to find out the soundness of long-term financial policy of the concern. This ratio is also called as external internal equity ratio. The formula is long-term debts divided by shareholders' funds. Now the shareholders' funds, students please note, it includes all types of shareholders. Preference capital plus equity capital plus profit and loss account, that is profit, plus any type of other reserves, it may be capital or revenue, minus all types of fictitious assets. Say for example, preliminary expenses, discount on issue of debentures or discount on issue of shares. Long-term debts normally includes the debentures. So next one is capital gearing ratio. It establishes the relation between the fixed interest bearing as well as fixed dividend bearing securities and equity shares. Fixed interest bearing, naturally it is debentures or any long term loans. Fixed dividend bearing means the preference share capital. So divided by equity shareholders funds. In the above debt equity ratio, it is a shareholders funds, but here it is equity shareholders funds. That means preference capital is not included. It is only equity capital plus reserves and surplus plus any other type of fictitious assets, they are excluded. Next, debtors turnover ratio, or it is also called as a debtors velocity. The number of times on an average the receivables are turnover in each year. Higher the value of ratio means the debtors are very effectively managed. The formula is net credit sales divided by average debtors. Sometimes in the problems net credit sales is not given, then the sales itself is considered, and average debtors means once again opening plus closing divided by 2. If it is not given, even by just dividing closing debtors, this is calculated. Next one is creditors turnover ratio. Creditors are always connected with purchases. Therefore, the formula is net credit purchases divided by average accounts payable. Average accounts payable means it is creditors as well as bills payable. Once again, if the net credit purchases are not given, then purchases divided by average accounts payable. Next one is proprietary ratio. It shows the relationship between the shareholders funds and the total tangible assets. The formula is shareholders funds. Students, once again note, shareholders funds here, it is once again as usual including preference as well as equity, divided by total assets. Remember, total assets which are excluding fictitious assets. Next, operating ratio. It is also called as operating cost ratio. The formula is the cost of goods sold plus operating expenses divided by net sales. We have already understood how to calculate the cost of goods sold, that is opening stock plus purchases plus direct expenses minus closing stock, or it is sales minus gross profit. Now operating expenses, it is administrative expenses plus selling and distribution expenses. In few cases, please note, some authors even include all type of expenses but excluding only if it is specifically given non-operating expenses, then those items, and loss which are occurred due to the sale of any fixed asset. So it is better in the examination to give a working note how it is calculated. The next one is the working capital ratio. It is nothing but current ratio. Therefore, we will understand some other versions of this ratio. Working capital to inventory, that is working capital divided by inventory. Now we should know what is working capital. Working capital is nothing but current assets minus current liabilities. Next one is working capital turnover ratio. Here the formula is net sales divided by working capital. Next, all these 12 ratios can be studied, classifying them under different categories: debt equity, capital gearing ratio, proprietary ratio, current ratio, liquid ratio or a quick ratio. They are all considered as solvency ratios. Inventory turnover ratio, debtors turnover ratio, creditors turnover ratio, working capital turnover ratio, all these ratios are considered as turnover ratios. Now, operating ratio or operating cost ratio, gross profit ratio, net profit ratio, these are considered as profitability ratios. Now, after knowing all these different ratios which are given in the Mangalore University syllabus, now I hope we are confident to solve problems. Thank you. Go through once again the different ratios.